Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Greetings, feely humans. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells. How are you? Thank you for being here. You guys are beautiful, feely humans. So grateful for you. I just got off the phone with my psychiatrist, and the reason for that is I saw her maybe a month and a half ago, and the reason I saw her is because I think my current depression medication, Vibrid, is starting to wane. I don't know if it's working the way it used to, and as many of you know, that's a scary concept, and one that I don't want to deal with, but I need to. And so I saw her, and she recommended me taking all these sorts of vitamins and methylfolate, and I started to do that, and it just, destroyed my stomach. And as some of you know, I have a really sensitive stomach, and I have SIBO, so I'm allergic to wheat and soy, and there's fillers in a lot of these things. I even made sure that there was no soy or wheat in the vitamins, but still messed me up. And so I'm back to square one, just taking the Vibrid. And so I was talking to my psychiatrist about this, and she brought up another medication option called Trintellix, Trintellix, as a alternative to the Vibrid. I'm wondering if maybe some of you have taken this or not. I don't know. I'm gonna do some research, see how the Vibrid goes, but I feel like I need to make a change, and I'm feeling scared, and I'm feeling bummed about it, and I'm feeling my depression has just been lower than the norm, and so I want to change that. And for anyone who's experienced this, I know many of you have, the sort of whole medication anxiety, the folly of figuring out our medication and what works, and the sort of cocktail of things. And I know that me having anxiety and depression is the most common experience, and I know many of you are dealing with many other sort of struggles and have to take a sort of cornucopia of things. And I'm so sorry. Like, I just can't imagine. And my heart goes out to you. It is something that needs to be talked about, though, because it's just, someone outside of this mental health space and who isn't medicated, like, I feel like it's hard to maybe get there and understand that, like, this is truly a marathon sort of endeavor where we are just out here trying to figure out, like, our brain chemistry, like, what's going to work? Is that going to work? Let's throw some spaghetti up against a wall and see if that sticks. And if it doesn't, oh, fuck, shit. Let's start again at square one. And it's exhausting. And so I am giving myself and you, dear listener, a little bit of kindness right now and say, it's going to be okay. You'll get through this. Make sure you seek the right doctors. You trust them. Again, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a silly boy who is sitting here at a table, and on the table is a blanket, and on that blanket is a bunch of dogs' faces. So that's the kind of therapist, aka non-therapist, I am. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's where I'm at emotionally right now. I love you, and I appreciate you, and we are feely humans, and we are changing the world one person at a time. That's right. Before we get to the episode with my guest, Tofe Evans, who is an impressive dude. He runs ultra marathons. He runs races that have like hundreds of miles in them, which is just bonkers to me. He's a really nice and sweet guy. Didn't know much about him, but we had a really interesting chat, and I enjoyed the cut of his jib. Before we get into Tofe's episode, I wanted to remind you to please subscribe and rate and review the show in iTunes and Google, all the places, but especially Apple Podcasts and iTunes, that place to leave a review. I'd love to see new reviews pop up. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to open your heart and let me know how it's impacting you and how it's maybe helped you in your mental health journey, or how you've related to a specific guest story. I would love to hear that. Those reviews make my day. So please go and leave a review for Yumi Empathy in iTunes. And please follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Yumi Empathy. We've got a Facebook group going. You can find those links on knownwells.com, yumiempathy.com. And what else? Submit your empathy heroes. Go to knownwells.com, submit your empathy hero, and I'll read it on the show. What else? What else can I say? I don't know what else can I say. I think that's probably it. Thank you for being lovely, feely humans. Enjoy this episode. This is episode 70, where I talk about why we need to love and accept ourselves before we're truly able to love and accept others, what we can do to be more connected to our feely humans in our lives, and the beauty of human resilience and the lessons we learn through adversity with my guest, Tofe Evans. Enjoy. Welcome to Yumi Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of Yumi Empathy is to talk openly about judgment. The intent of Yumi Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our neuroses, our mental illnesses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being human. Yumi Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm excited to explore human resilience and adversity with limit-pushing ultramarathoner, newly published author, and public speaker, Tofe Evans. Hello, Tofe.
Hey, mate. Thanks for the intro.
Oh, of course. Happy to have you, man. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, brother. I'm much better that I'm chatting with you now.
So I am in California now, and you are in Australia?
Mm-hmm. I'm on the East Coast, so I'm like Brisbane, Gold Coast area.
Okay, nice. I've never been to Australia. I've been in an airport in Australia for about an hour, but that's it. So I feel shame for that.
It's okay.
Have you always lived in Australia?
Oh, I've done a lot of travel. I've probably done, like, collectively, probably a little over 2 years of my life is spent in travel, and that's through a lot of countries. A lot of it's through the States, actually.
Nice.
And a lot of, like, the UK and Europe as well, but mainly the States.
Nice. Well, we'll get into your story and talk about adversity and resilience in a second. We always kick off the show with an emotional check-in. How are you feeling today? How's your week been?
Oh, man, I love this. You know, as a guy that is so big on resilience, and my brand is predominantly around resilience and connection. I'm just as I have to kind of remind myself that I am also human, right? No, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying I'm superhuman. That's not what I'm saying at all. That it's funny, like when things can like when shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote like a no, it's not a shameless plug, but that's why I wrote the book about this. And like the last 4 months, I'd done it's probably tested me in an entirely new way because of like insecurities that would rise
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing how I would and it's fascinating how I've been able to deal with them after I've had the tools I've learned over the last I don't know how many years now, but it's fascinating how it's made me a little bit more prepared. But in regards to the emotional check-in, there was definitely a bit of fear around finances, and that, to be honest, there was a period where I had to jump off social media for a bit, and the reason for it is I'm all for posting great content to to build my brand up and to impact someone. When I wanted to change the narrative of how people looked at social media, like as a byproduct,
Sure.
because sometimes on Instagram it can be a little, let's just say, superficial. Not everyone is. So I would like there would be times where I'd post all the downs too during the times, but it got pretty rough where I started mentally putting myself through masochism,
Mm.
and I would compare myself, which is like 101. Do not do that because you don't know
Danger
that.
zone.
Oh, it leads to judgment. It leads to um, you can't control other people, and you don't know what other people's stories are. Like I have no idea, and I knew that was like a bit of a trigger as well. So I decided to jump off. Like I'm back on, but this was in the last 4 months, and like a few relationship issues there, and for me, it's trying to figure out the spiritual lesson as soon as possible. So I'm not attached. I'm not attached, and I removed attachment, and I'm able to, I guess, take that lesson from it to make sure it doesn't happen next time, and to pass on to others. So there's definitely a bit of sense of peace after going through that, and it's always what I practice, what I preach with adversity. Like it's the people we look up to, or the superheroes, whether they're fictitious people, like fictitious like characters, like in anyone in Marvel or DC, or actual people we look up to, could be someone with really high social proof. Their journey is predicated around some sort of adversity, and it's been the trajectory to their growth. So when I look at it now, it's like, well, it's happening for me, not to me. And it's just like these little subtle mindset shifts that you start to. I've learned to embrace adversity on a different level because of the ultra marathons and the endurance events that I've done. Because at first I was doing them as like an escapism, and then I was looking at them for me to give back to by doing them for charity and for community reasons. That I would always look for the hardest event because it's something to test me. And by doing that, it made me embrace that suck. So when the adversity comes, any sort of adversity, it kind of prepared me in that way because I was always looking for a challenge. So it was a subtle, like a slight mindset shift with that. So when the last 4 months have hit me, definitely hasn't been the best year for me, but I can't look at it like that. I have to go, all right, there's been a lot of good, and there's been a lot of things that tested me, and it just made me, I think that's just another step closer to growth, right?
Oh man, I love that, Toph. I think that's really beautifully said. I love what you said about it not happening to you, it happening for you. I think that's a really important lesson, something that I try to do myself, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes, and I think because sometimes we want to perceive the world as as our own playground, as like a personal affront to us if something bad happens or whatever, shit happens as you say. And I think it's easy to take things personally sometimes because we do as humans naturally want to just project ahead, and we want to try to control ahead of time, control the future, try to project how things will happen. But, the truth is we don't have control over that. And I think that's a great lesson in relinquishing that control a bit.
It's trying to live in the present, right? And not get, there's an amazing book called Time Paradox, and it talks about the past, present, future, but the fatalist and the hedonism between both. And it was talking about, if we just talk about future focused living, it's talking about how hedonism is like when you have vision and you're like excited for uncertainty because it's like this what now kind of mentality as opposed to what if. But the opposite is the fatalism which is anxiety, really. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's kind of like, all right, not trying to think too far ahead, even though there's like this overall overarching kind of mission statement, let's just say, but trying to just live right now because there's been too many days, and I think we can all relate to this, where you don't remember, you kind of can't remember what you did that day because you spent it too busy worrying. And it's definitely something I'm trying to be mindful of.
Yeah.
Even just a dear friend of mine who's she's a psychologist and she's also like a fellow runner. Someone who's been studying this stuff for 15 years, like a clinical psychologist. I learned one thing from her, like she's like, now and then every day I will have to, like a few times a day, I will just go back to the fundamentals and the five senses that we have, right? Like the touch, the smell, the hear, the see, and the taste. And she's like, what am I doing during this? Like, she's like, it's almost like you have to do it really meticulously. And it's like, what am I hearing right now? And I can hear like trees blowing and I can hear cars going by, and it's doing that through every sense. And even spending like a couple of minutes is kind of like a meditation in a way.
Yeah.
But it's at least it's like the most engaging present focused living. It's kind of like the breathing techniques that what we can put ourselves through as well. It's fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's like when you have to reset your modem every once in a while. We have to do that as humans for sure. I think like we get caught up in the minutia. We get caught up in, there's so much to get caught up in. And I think taking it simpler can be a good reset. I want to get back to something you said, and I think this is a good sort of foray into how you maybe started your journey yourself. You said something about how you had been struggling and you took some time off of social media. And during that time, you found, the desire, and I think a great desire to want to be vulnerable and share the ups and downs, right? I think that's coming from a great place. But then the almost pull to like you use the word masochistic, be masochistic about it. And I get that. I totally empathize with that mentality. What kinds of things were you doing?
In regards to,
wanting to maybe be a little bit too masochistic and recognizing that in yourself. Like what kinds of things were you recognizing as maybe a little bit too masochistic for yourself and not good self-care?
Oh, it's definitely a validation thing. Hey, it was a self-worth. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm happy to talk about this and be real about it, even though like my brand is built around resilience, because it just shows whoever's listening how human I am. Because like resilience is entirely about bouncing back, and there's an amazing saying by Warren Buffett, and he says the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. And I'm so driven of momentum that if I start to slow down, it really starts to question me. And then the self-worth stuff, I always have to come back down to like basic gratitude practice, like that simple, fundamental, and it's preventing myself from any old triggers and actually like journaling what I'm going through as we speak. Because what I found, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but when I journal, I usually let the pen and the heart do the talking, right? Like I'm trying to not think about it too much. And when I start journaling, other stuff comes out of it, meaning I've used that as an outlet to get everything out of me, as opposed to it's being pent up.
Sure.
Because if I'm just thinking about it, the narrative is going to go completely obscure. But like using that as an outlet, and even having friends, like it's very healthy to be like I'm someone who's a heterosexual male, and to have other males, like right now, like I feel like we can become really awesome mates because we can connect on such a deep level, right? There's no judgment, no superficiality in that way.
Exactly.
And that's always helped. That's actually been the biggest help for me, by having that inner circle of male friends. And I at first, when I was doing this stuff, I could only talk to females at first, because they're naturally going to vent. So it's like, okay, then like you put a bunch of women together at like breakfast and they're going to vent, but you put a bunch of guys together, like really like blokey masculine dudes, it might just be about sport or locker room talk. Who knows what it could be about? But
not for me.
Yeah, like I've learned to be that catalyst for other men, as like use my vulnerability as a strength so they don't feel alone in a way.
That's great.
And even for myself, it's like it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to not be okay. So writing through the emotions of what I'm going through, as opposed to suppressing them, because it's gonna like allow me to implode if I don't ride through those emotions. And so it's always good what's helped me prevent the masochism is knowing that I am kind of worth everything. Well, knowing that I am, and having those group of guys around me that is like not just guys, but just having a great support system around me.
Yeah. No, it's essential, I think. And I think you are saying some important things that I've learned through my journey, is that we need to be open and vulnerable, because that is truly how we can shed our ego. That is truly how we can just shed all the bullshit and actually truly connect with one another. There's so much, especially on the male side. I've been recently writing and talking about this a bit on the podcast. There's so much cultural sort of persuasion and just crap that's piled up on what it means to be a man. And I think the sooner we can disregard that and speak openly with one another, the sooner that we're going to really truly grow and really truly develop, what you're working on, develop the resiliency and the truth in the face of adversity that we really need.
I feel you, man. And it's funny you say that about what it takes to be a man. I had a mate, and I kind of had to be honest, I had to cut him out of my life because he was it was a lot of derogatory comments, and it was like internally a bully. But I could never grow facial hair. Right? I can't grow facial hair to save my life. There's a few of us that can't. And it might be the Asian blood in me, but for me, it's kind of like he would say that you're not a man because you can't grow a beard. And it's like, that's definitely not what it means. And I think that's something I'd love to see, is like removing all stereotypes in general, right? Like I'm just trying to be Tofe, and it's like and it doesn't even matter what other people think. It's just like what I think of me at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And that how I came, like I know that's true, because one of the insecurities I was dealing with was identity issue, because I would be pivoting so much that I'm going, what the hell are people going to know me as, right? And funny enough, like Tofe is derived from my full name. So my first name is actually Christopher, and Tofe comes from Tofa, and Tofa comes from Christopher, and it's just a nickname that's stuck since school. And in Australia, we're very lazy with syllables, so that's how Tofe came about. It's also for branding reasons because I'm the only Tofe Evans in the world, as opposed to the million Christopher Evanses. Not to digress, but I used to be known as Chris the designer because I'd done design and engineering for like 7 years, so I was always known as Chris the designer. And as my nickname became kind of how I was personal branded, it was known as Tofe the ultra runner, and then Tofe the resilience guy. But for me, it's like sometimes I don't just want to be known for running, and it's like, what if I want to take up like cycling or something, hypothetically? And that was playing on my ego because it's like, what do I want to be known as, and legacy? And look, I definitely want to leave a great legacy, like as in I want to leave the world better as when I got here. But it doesn't really matter. And it's like, to me, the only association I want to leave myself with is just knowing I'm a good person and with a good heart, that's a heart pure, and everything I do is out of good intention. And sometimes it can bite. Like, some people don't like that because it doesn't align with their value system. So I learn to appreciate their opinions and respect their opinions. But by saying that, saying that I'm just a good person and everything I do is tied in with the North Star of bridging that gap of disconnect, it doesn't matter what I do. So it doesn't matter if I end up take up marketing role, or it doesn't matter if I do a bunch of keynote speaking, and it doesn't matter if I want to take up running, because everything kind of comes back to that overarching mission of bridging that gap of disconnect and what I do. So that was the other one. That's the big one I've learned, that it doesn't actually matter what people think because they're going through their own stuff, but it just matters what I think of myself.
No, I think you're exactly right. And it takes time to get there. And I think in that, you were talking about how, with your blokes, you've been vulnerable and you've maybe allowed them to see maybe a bit of that side of themselves. Like, once, I think that's the making the world a better place. That's the leaving it better than when we started, is the impact we can create on others and the connect that you're talking about, and allowing people to see that who we are is who we are, and that's valid and real, and we should respect that. We should accept that. We should meet people where they are, and that's the journey. Like that is the essence of the journey. That's at least my sort of perspective on the world.
Oh, I feel you, man. And it's not just acceptance. I think acceptance is worked better when you focus on self-acceptance first. Because I've learned that how we treat others is how we treat ourselves. And it's like a mirrored projection in a way. And that's why I feel I couldn't get into relationships for a long time. And there's so many people pressuring me going, oh, why don't you have kids right now? And and I'm looking at that, and it's like, I'm having trouble, not as much right now, but like I would have trouble loving myself because of all the stuff that had stemmed from my teenage days. That how am I meant to love anyone else, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I try and build myself and built such a strong foundation that I would be someone that I could share a life with. And it's very heartbreaking to see how many mates I know that have been married at such a young age, at mid-20s, and they're already divorced.
Yeah.
And because it's fucking hell. It's like that industrial blueprint of like how we're meant to live lives.
Yep.
So like age, you get married, and then bang, bang, bang.
Checking boxes.
Oh, fuck. I'm the most, like, I personally am one of the most unconventional people I know. So I know I can't live like a norm, status quo kind of life anyway. And when people are just saying you should do this, look, I will listen to them, but it's up to me if I want to take that in. So that was the other one too. Like, I have to really truly focus on building myself, I guess, self-concept, if you want to say. And like, that's kind of the amalgamation of self belief and self love and self I guess self guidance too, self care, all these things into one. So when I'm able to share with someone else, it's look, I've kind of got my stuff. I've got my cup is full now, and I'm able to give. It's like this ever flowing cup. So
That's beautiful.
When I can be with that person, then it's just like a free flowing love. And what I had been dealing with, we find more and more about ourselves every year, and it's usually find more in the losses. Not to put a negative connotation in it. I think there's something beautiful with dealing a loss because you learn about more yourself in the losses than the wins. And I got that from Kobe Bryant. I'm a big NBA fan, so I remember him saying that, and I was like, oh, okay. And it just kind of like brushed over my head, and it made sense, but it didn't really stuck until an endurance event I did this year, and it was an absolute gargantuan behemoth event, and I had to pull out with 40 miles to go, and
How many miles total?
it was a 214 mile race.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was a race across Scotland. That's literally what it was called, like a legit registered race.
Wow.
It was absolute hell and war for 4 days, and it's a foot race. Like you're literally on your feet for the whole time. Running like this, the distance is this is going to sound so like absurd. The distance isn't what scared me, dude. It's Scotland, like the constant transition and change, abrupt transition in weather, in terrain, in everything, and that time of the year too. So it was their summer, but it's still winter. It's freezing. You're going through like every season in a day. You're going through like cash at paddocks. You're climbing up mountains. Every part of your body's in pain. When I finished that race, I learnt that like so much more than I could ever do in the wins. And I guess with one of the things I dealt with was like when something like, I guess when negativity comes across the mind, it can almost lead to worst case scenario, and then other things came about. But I felt like if I were to give a bit of a story, like I finished the event, and then I was traveling through Ireland for Ireland and England for like another 4 weeks afterwards, because I was doing a bunch of keynotes, a bunch of workshops at different businesses and that. And what had happened was I didn't literally within 3 days I'm going back into like work mode. So I gave my body rest, but I didn't give myself enough mental downtime, and that led to burnout, because that race really is using so much mental glycogen to surpass. That's why like sometimes after a marathon, you can see people in the like space cakes because they've used so much thinking energy.
Oh yeah, I've been through that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, it led me to realize that I wasn't and this was only recent too, like I wasn't able to love myself for like over a decade, and I had only realized because I was people pleasing so hard. So I had to learn how to say no. And like to put that into perspective, like 13 to, I think it was anywhere between 13 to 15 years. I'm still trying to, like, there's still like implicit memories that will come in that I've been trying to hide by denial from like my teenage days, from some sort of abuse, that if you're trying to unlearn something that's been over a decade, it's going to take longer than like 6 months. Like you can rewire those neural pathways, but even for me, it's like doing stuff for myself, first of all, is still entirely hard. Yeah. Like I'm on time for this, right? I'm on time for the Skype call because I'm accountable to you, but integral to myself is secondary when it should be primary.
Yeah.
And that's been probably the biggest lesson I've learned this year, to do things for myself, first of all, so I can take care of myself, then I can focus on everything else, because if I'm not in a good state, then I can't perform. And that could be the reason why some of the relationships I've ever been in haven't ended so well. That could be the reason why relationships haven't been a strength of mine. But
Yeah.
it's funny enough because the last kind of person I was seeing, it wasn't superficial whatsoever. We were able to talk about like insecurities and everything. It was really real and raw. And she actually found that, I actually could notice she found that really attractive. And like, it was fascinating. So for me, that kind of redefined what masculinity is, because women, after like doing a lot of research and surveys, women want to see that side of men as well. Not all the time, because then it means they can't look after themselves. But I'm glad to have discovered this, because if I didn't discover this now, I may not have discovered this for 3 years more, hypothetically. During those periods, the implosion would be so much more worse, because I did go through like a few mental breakdowns, I admit, because I'm thinking this is ego, entirely ego, thinking I've got it all together. How am I able to get selected to run for this race to represent my country? And then something like as personal as this would shine up. But then I would see other people and see them so happy in a way, and I would resent that so much because I wasn't able to have that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
building myself back up during this period has probably been one of the biggest tests. And I'm definitely much more stronger than I was before then, but I'm glad to go through that, if that makes sense.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. I relate 100%. And I think you're absolutely right. You know, you're dealing with a 10, 15-year journey or experience where you were the person who was putting people first. I was that person myself, Toph. It almost killed me, you know. And I think I'm still learning to do better at that, to understand that I do need to care for myself if I'm really truly going to be caring and connecting with others. And, you know, so kudos to you for finding that truth, because I think it's a truth we all need to find.
Yeah, and what I found is actually really invigorating is saying no to things.
Oh, yeah. Great boundaries.
To create boundaries and to not wear myself thin and to not bite off more than I can chew. And giving myself like the flexibility, because it was kind of like, it's just my personality at first where I'm going, and I'm not trying to change my personality, and it's just subtle tweaks so I don't bite myself in the ass again. Yeah. And I can still be that flamboyant, and I think like I am definitely overly sensitive, but I look at that like a strength, because it is a strength because you can sense emotion from others when other people might not. It's kind of like, I think it's like an empath gift in a way, because when it's a double-edged sword, because I noticed it in this conversation when I'm saying, oh, it probably, or kind of, it's not like a full direct, and it's because I don't want to offend that person, because I know what it's like to be hurt. So it's like, I don't want to hurt that person, because you wouldn't want to wish that on anyone's life. So for me, it's like being direct, because you're not, it's totally perception, and I'm not here to, it's not coming from, it's coming from a place of love, if anything. So I just lost my train of thought there, but
it's all right. I think what I'm hearing from you and what I'm going to say back to you is, I'm here to listen and to give you space to listen, give you space to speak, rather. And we all need to do that for each other. You know, mm-hmm. I think that is the thing that will lead us forward. I think you even mentioned, you used the word overly sensitive. I would edit that and saying you're sensitive, and that is a power. There's no overly, there's no underly. I think we as a culture want to say that person is dramatic, or that person needs to not be so sensitive, that person needs, and I think that's wrong. I don't think that's coming from a censorious place. That's coming from a place of like, you know, the masculinity that we were referring to earlier. I think, so, you know, take pride in your sensitivity. I think it's a great thing. I do want to get to what, because I know you're short on time. I do want to get to what really kind of maybe an inciting incident, an experience, what really led to your path toward like really pursuing and learning about adversity and resilience?
Yeah, that's a great question, dude. I had I went through like a massive pitfall back in 2014, and it was essentially like a conglomerate of many things that happened to me at once, and there was relationship issues, there was business issues, there was even financial issues. There was a few things that just kind of hit me at once, and it was mainly the relationship stuff because there is an emotion attached to it, like dealing with another human being and multiple human beings. So I went down this crazy spiral, and that really impeded on my mental health. And I was kind of going off the rails. And as a kid who liked to party back then, I would like any sort of substance abuse, whether it's drugs or alcohol, and even self-infliction as well, can create like a psychological burden. And I wasn't looking after myself mentally and physically or like holistically, right? So once I was able to kind of be vulnerable and speak to people, mainly females and like very, very close friends, it started to declutter the mind. And then I was able to, I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. So I looked into it, why I wasn't happy. And there's no black and white entirely about this, but I found that I hadn't been looking after my health. So I made that a priority. And for some reason, health equaled sport. And I decided to take up running because I didn't want to join a team sport or anything because I thought, well, I was always a kid that got picked last at school because my hand-eye coordination isn't that great. So I thought, I can't screw up running, right? It doesn't really cost much, just got to get the shoes, and it's just by myself. And that's what taught me how to push through adversity. And it's not like a Forrest Gump kind of thing. It was an escapism in a way, because at least I'm putting my energy towards something positive. As in looking after my health. And from there, I got really curious by going, okay, I'm sick of just running for the sake of running. I want to put it towards something. And then it just became a marathon. And at least I'm putting it towards training. I can reverse engineer the goal. And from there, after doing that first marathon, I was kind of hooked because I'm like, okay, this is the fittest and healthiest I've ever been in a long time. And it was kind of like, all right, how do I constantly grow better as a person with this? And then I signed up for more events. And then my friend and I, we were an endurance duo for a couple of years. And we wanted to, at first we were just running events for ourselves. And then we felt like we wanted to give back. And we were. And we had given back to a lot of, for cancer research. We'd lost, I know too many people that are affected by cancer. I think we all have like some sort of time, someone that we know that has cancer.
Yeah.
Or a family that has cancer. And that for me was learning it was exciting to find new events. So at first it was like 13 events we'll do for the year. We planned it like we'll do 13 endurance events in the year. Like we just want to do at least one half marathon, one full, something over a full. So maybe like a 50K or a 31 mile, like a triathlon, maybe like an obstacle course race, and fill the rest with maybe like half and full marathons. And then like 13 turned into 20, and then it turned into 40, and trying to raise like a bunch of money for cancer research. And from there, like that started to rewire a few of the neural pathways because it just became the normal where there's an event that we were doing an event every weekend. And the mindset would be like, oh, this event's on, you should give it a try. Okay. And because it's like, come on, test me, because I know I can do that. Now let's go for something bigger and go for something bigger. And signing up for the event is one thing and paying for it and whatever, but actually doing the event is the next thing. And this is where you start you're really tested. Like really dabbling into. So a marathon is 42 kilometers, and they were dabbling into 100 kilometers. So it's about 2.5 marathons at once. And they say that the marathon usually starts 30 Ks in, because it's usually like the last 30%. And it's first like testing myself, going, okay, there was a 70K mental block. There's not every time, but I was experiencing that, and that was so much more worse. And then once I finished that, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I finished that. And it's like high risk, high reward. The bigger the like the races, I will always remember the ones where I had to dig the deepest. There's a video of me, I can send it to you, of me breaking down 280 kilometers into the race during Scotland, so 174 miles in, and I am holding on for dear life in that point. But before then, like during that entire race, I am going up and down, and in those times where I'm questioning every bit of sanity, why the hell did I sign up for this? Part of me was going, oh, I can do this. I've done this before. So when I deal with like actual real life adversity, it's kind of emulating that and taking what I've learned from that and going, all right, let's apply that in real life. If I can run some stupid distance, then I can deal with this issue and this issue and this issue. And it was about breaking it down. That was probably how I figured it out. It was going, all right, if we're going to do this many, just focus on the first checkpoint and break it down so it's not as overwhelming, and it's more bite-sized chunks. Look, it feels like it's going to take forever because you've got a million rounds to get there, but that's how I dealt with running at first. It was going, all right, now let's focus on the lamppost, let's focus on the light post, and let's focus on the stop sign and all that. So I was able to break it down into what was achievable when it felt like the biggest gargantuan thing. Over the period, I was looking forward to, you know what, we should just sign up for 200K because I'm excited to see how deep I have to dig. And it's so profound to say. And part of me, when I go through adversity, has that mentality too, because I've kind of built that into my brain the last like 3-4 years, that when adversity comes, as much as I hate it, I know it's going to make me better.
I mean, it's amazing, you know. I mean, I could never run those distances. I've learned that I don't know if my physical body can do it, but this is not about me. I'm wondering how you get from a place of, you know, I'm not physically, mentally healthy, I need to take up running, to a point where you're learning about mindset and you are thinking about resilience and you're thinking about adversity, and especially in terms of just your overall mental health, and how do all those things fit in for you? Like, what are you learning about yourself now in these experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing I found is a lot of marathoners are running from their demons in a way, ironically. And a lot of people are running because of mental health reasons. But a lot of people are doing it because they're part of a community. And that's probably in the top reasons why I took up running. Because I learned that, you know, I'm going to come across like-minded others. And there's nothing more, like, humans are wired for connection. And it's like, it comes from like a neurobiological standpoint. And the best kind of connection is when you can connect and relate to someone on a rock bottom level, on an adversity level. So not only I'd say friendship and human connection was the big one that I had learnt. It wasn't like running crazy gargantuan distances. It was a connection I'd felt with like-minded others. And it's not just runners. It's from all walks of life as well. Where you're able to take that adversity, it became fuel to run these races. I would play this little calculation on my head. I'm like, okay, this is a 100K race. It's going to take me anywhere between 11, depending 11 to 14 hours, depending on if I bomb out or whatever. I'm like, that's 14 hours. I've got to push through. But I remember there was a period where I went through. It had to be probably close to a year of crazy depression and anxiety, and there was a lot of it was even very suicidal as well. And I go, if I can go through 9 months of that shit, maybe it was probably close to like 11 actually, then 14 hours is nothing. And that's what helps me a lot. And doing a lot of research in third world countries and that, and I found that the poorest people, and actually meeting them too, are the poorest people the most grateful because they focus on the fundamentals. And it's like food, water, shelter, and human connection. And that's what I had been missing because I would isolate myself on purpose, and then I'm like, I feel lonely. And the moment I was able to, I would meet these people, and maybe I was hanging around the wrong people, who knows? But I'd be around people who weren't there to judge and to build a connection. And it was like integration, right? Like I'm not just having friendships, I'm also looking after my health, and it would lead into other opportunities and whatnot. So it became like a holistic kind of solution in a way. And just meeting other people, it made me not feel alone. And that's probably been the biggest one.
Yeah, that's a powerful recognition. I think that's what this podcast is all about. It's making people feel less alone in whatever they're experiencing or doing. Do you think there's a limit to what you're doing, in terms of the ultra marathoning? Is there a limit to seeking that adversity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there is a method to the madness. It was like, I was kind of chasing that invisible tail where I'm going, all right, event's got to be bigger. Yeah. Next event is going to be bigger. But it doesn't have to be. Like, I actually took a break for like a few months from events and that. There's actually an event on today I was going to do, but I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to put that pressure on myself. I actually thought just do stuff for me as opposed to stuff that I have felt obligated to do. And I don't think it does. Like, I'm constantly and that it comes back down to the identity association, what I mentioned before. I don't just want to be known as a runner, and there are other avenues that I can do what I'm doing, because for me it's about connecting with others that have gone through something and they might feel alone in a way, so that we're creating an entirely new connection. And that's the friendships I've made this year have been more of substance than any other year. And that's probably been the biggest pro I can see. As much of all the insecurities I've dealt with in any of the years, this has probably been one of the most testing. But the friendships I've come across this year have been of much higher quality, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And with the ultra running, it's like it doesn't just have to be through running. I can spread my message and do it through different avenues. Like there's always the part of me that goes, yes, I want to do this because it's on the bucket list, right? Like there's so many events, there are so many races out there and so many events and all that. But I'm always constantly trying to reinvent myself and be adaptable in a way. And that's why like I went into a lot of writing, and that's why like I'm more about doing these creative projects. Like the running doesn't actually even matter. It was just a vehicle to go towards that North Star, you could say. So everything I do is to go to that. And when I break it down, like I've mentioned, it's not actually about the endurance kind of stuff. Part of it is, but it's actually the human connection that I actually probably value the most out of it all. So it's like, what can I do today to be more connected to humans?
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading about resiliency before this chat, and I think that's certainly one of the aspects of building resiliency is connecting with others, making us feel less alone. And I think another aspect of what you're talking about is creating opportunities for self-discovery. whether it's through running, whether it's through writing, speaking, all those things. I think that's a important part of the resiliency that we have as humans.
Oh, amen, brother.
Well, let's wrap up here. What I could talk with you forever. I think we should do this again sometime. But
I'm totally.
We'll plug your stuff in a moment, but we always wrap up the show talking about an empathy hero. So this is someone in our lives, either an author we've never met, we've read, someone personally we know, a friend, even someone from fiction, someone who is just a good empathetic person. I'll mention my empathy hero first, give you a moment to think on yours. My empathy hero this week is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She is the very young congressional candidate. I think how old was she? Anyway, she was elected to Congress, youngest woman elected to Congress. And wow. I just kind of love her. I think she's delightful, and she speaks up and raises her voice for the small people and the people that are people of color and minorities. And I think she's great. And I was going to read one of her quotes here. She said, this quote is on the subject of raising her voice. They'll tell you you're too loud, that you need to wait your turn and ask the right people for permission. Do it anyway. And I love that. I think that's just maybe speaking to what we're talking about here, Toph, in that we need to speak up for ourselves. We need to accept ourselves and accept ourselves for who we are. And so I just love that. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is my empathy hero this week. How about you? Do you have an empathy hero, Toph?
Yeah, man. From this week, who am I thinking? It's definitely a few people. It's probably, there's two guys I can think of. If I have to narrow it down to one, it's my mate RJ. He's such a good dude. Like, he's gone through his own hell, and at the age of like 37, as well as like a brother, he's become like a bit of a mentor in a way, and vice versa. Like, we help each other with certain stuff, and just certain times he'll just check up on me. And I think that's so powerful and needed, because in the state of, if anyone's listening, like, I think they can understand this, like, when you're such a people pleaser, you can't, it's so hard to receive help. And asking for help is one thing, but trying to receive it is something else. And that's something I've had to learn to do, because the cup was, when I mentioned the cup analogy before, what happened in Ireland was I'd given away so much that I gave the cup away. It's what it felt like. And I'd lost a lot of hope for myself at that point, because I'm like, I've done everything, and I totally forgot about myself. There was a few things I'd done. And RJ and my other mate, Zach, we're just there for each other. And it's so beautiful to have people around that actually care about you. And if I were to mention a bunch of people, it'd actually be mum and dad. They're just very supportive people.
Oh, excellent. That's great. Yeah, we need those people in our lives. Well, Toph, where can people learn about you, read about your wild adventures, all that stuff?
Yeah, man. I'm just thinking, I think the best source would probably be my website, because if instead of like, here's any of my social media handles, my website has all that. So my website is Tofe Evans, EVANS.com, and it has everything in there about everything from where you can reach out to me and to meet more people. And if I'm going to do a bit of a plug, there's my two mates and I. It's actually RJ and Zach. We've started a movement, actually. And if anyone's listening that is lacking a bit of mentorship because they can't afford it, or they want to be a part of a community, because that's what we're entirely about. We've started something called Next Gen Movement, and it's creating the leaders of tomorrow. And everything that we've learnt from us three and everyone that's a part of it. It's essentially we built a platform as a shared experience that's entirely feedback driven. So we put out and we do everything as to what like our audience wants in a way. And that's how we determine like what piece of content and everything that we do. But it's a place for the younger gen, like the leaders, like tomorrow's leaders, whether it's the millennials or it's Gen X or Gen Z or Gen Alpha, if you want to put it into generations like that. They're a part of something that you're going to learn from shared experience from other people, and it's something that doesn't cost anything. So it's something we built, and it's called Next Gen Movement. So we built that through. It's mainly on LinkedIn right now, but if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, and every piece of content is usually predicated around that, and it's just if anyone feels alone, then and you want to learn if you want to be able to grow, then I feel like this would be something for you, because we've all been in that kind of that state for so long that we decided, why are we doing things on our own when we can put our heads together? And not just our heads, we're just the ones that created it, but we've allowed it as to people to be their own voice that when they feel voiceless.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Well, cool. Well, thank you, Tofe, for being on Yumi Empathy. It was fun.
Oh man, I appreciate you, brother.
And to you listeners, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.
La, la, la.